morning, class.
Good morning, ma'am.
Okay, we're now in chapter 24 of Life and Works of Rizal, which is the last homecoming and trial. Rizal's homecoming in 1896 was his saddest return to the Philippines because he might sacrifice his life.
But he was unafraid, for he knew that his life would water the seeds of Filipino freedom. Day by day, since leaving Barcelona on Tuesday, October 6, Rizal conscientiously recorded the daily events in his diary while staying in a second-class cabin, which is strictly guarded.
Amiable, refined, and polite, consistent with the seriousness of his duty.
Dr. Rizal, I would like to inform you that the newspapers of Madrid now are full of stories about the bloody revolution of the Philippines, and they're blaming you for it.
I believe what God is doing me is a blessing. Either they do me justice and recognize my innocence. I am ready to obey it. I am happy and ready.
I'm curious of what Rizal is writing on that diary of his.
I fear it might be seditious or treasonable.
Before reaching Port Said, Rizal's diary was taken away and was critically scrutinized by the authorities.
There is nothing wrong in its content.
There's nothing incriminating here as well.
News of Rizal's predicament reached his friends Dr. Antonio Maria Regidor and Sixto Lopez.
We have to rescue Rizal from the Spanish steamer when it comes to Singapore.
Let's send a telegram to English lawyer Huge Fort in Singapore to rescue him.
Yes.
By means of a writ of habeas corpus.
I, Fort, stand for the removal of Dr. Jose Rizal from the Spanish steamers illegally detained on that Spanish.
I deny the request, for the colon is a worship of foreign power and is beyond the jurisdiction of Singapore authorities.
The colon reached Manila, where it was greeted with wild rejoicings by the Spaniards and friars.
Rizal was quietly transferred to Fort Santiago, where the Spanish authorities fished for evidence against Rizal.
We have already fished evidence against Rizal from many Filipino patriots, Deodato Arellano, Dr. Pio Valenzuela, Moises Salvador, Jose Dizon,
Domingo Franco, Timoteo Pae,
And Pedro Serrano Lactao. They are all brutally tortured to implicate Rizal. But there is still one in my mind. Casiano Rizal.
Come on, tell us what to do! No! Say evidences against your brother or you will have more of this.
I don't know anything, so I have nothing to say!
Presence!
The preliminary investigation began. Rizal appeared before the judge advocate for 5 days, was informed of the charges against him, and he answered questions of the judge advocate.
Can I confront those who testified against me?
No.
2 kinds of evidences were presented against Rizal, the documentary and testimonial. Documentary consisted of documents, letters, poems, and transcripts, while the testimonial evidence consists of oral testimonies.
After the preliminary investigation,
Colonel Olive transmitted the records of the case to Governor General Blanco, and the latter appointed Captain Rafael Dominguez as a special judge advocate, who just made a brief resume of the charges and sent it back to Governor General Blanco, who then sent it to Don Nicolas de la Peña for opinion.
I have four recommendations regarding this case. First, the accused must be immediately brought to trial. Second, he should be kept in prison. An order of attachment must be issued against his property. The amount of 1 million pesos as indemnity. And last, he should be defended by an army officer and not by a civilian lawyer.
The only right given to Rizal was to choose his defense counsel, so a list of 101st and 2nd lieutenants in the Spanish army was presented to him.
This name is familiar to me.
I choose Don Luis Daviel de Andrade, Lieutenant of Artillery, to be my defender in court.
You, Jose Rizal, are being accused of being the principal organizer and the living soul of the Filipino insurrection, the founder of societies, periodicals, and books dedicated to fomenting and propagating ideas of rebellion.
My client raised no objection on the jurisdiction.
But I am not guilty from the crime of rebellion.
Rizal wrote a manifesto to his people, appealing to them to stop the necessary shedding of blood and to achieve their liberties by means of education and industry.
My countrymen, I have given proofs of desiring liberties and I still desire them. But I place as the premise the education of the people so that by means of education and labor, they might have personality of their own and make themselves worthy of liberties.
Fortunately for Rizal, the manifesto was not issued to people.
That saved him from the shame of his manifesto being misinterpreted by Filipinos in arms.
Others were joyously celebrating the birthday of Christ with their family and friends. But for Rizal, it was the saddest Christmas, for he found himself alone and depressed in a dreary prison cell.
My very distinguished defender, tomorrow my case will be heard. If you have time, I should like to speak to you before I appear the court. Wishing you a Merry Christmas. Jose Rizal.
All rise.
Cuartel de España is now in session.
Captain Rafael Dominguez presiding. Please be seated.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Calling the case of the people of the Philippines versus Dr. Jose Rizal. Are both sides ready?
Ready for the people, Your Honor.
Ready for the defense, Your Honor.
Your Honor and ladies and gentlemen of the jury, the defendant has been charged with crime of being the principal organizer of revolution and writer of books dedicated to foment and propagate ideas of rebellion against the country. Therefore, the court must give the verdict of death to the accused.
Your Honor, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, under the law, my client is presumed innocent until proven guilty. There is no real evidence against my client. The judge cannot be vindictive. The judge can only be just.
Defendant, ready with its case?
Your Honor, I call the defendant.
Please stand.
Raise your right hand.
Do you promise?
That the testimony you shall give in your case now before this court shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do. Sent my supplementary defense to further prove my innocence in 12 points. I could not be guilty for rebellion, for advice, Dr. Pio of Valenzuela and Dapitan not to rise in revolution. I did not correspond with radical, revolutionary elements. Use my name without my knowledge. For guilty, I could have escaped in Singapore. Hand on revolution, I could have escaped in Moravinta and would not build a home? We were the chief of the revolution. Why was I not consulted by the revolutionists? I wrote the bylaws of the Liga Filipina. But this is only a civic association, not a revolutionary society. The Filipina did not live long. Before their first meeting, I was banished to the Dapitan and it died out. The Liga was reorganized 9 months later. I did not know about it. The Liga did not serve the purpose of the revolutionists. Otherwise, they would not have supplanted it with the Katipunan. I know that there are some bitter comments in my letter, but it was because they were written 1890 when my family was being persecuted. Dispossessed of houses, warehouses, lands, and my brother and old brother-in-law were deported. And had been exemplary as the politico-military commanders and missionary priests could attest. The revolution was inspired by the speech at the house of Doroteo Ongongku, whom I would like to confront to armed rebellion. Why did the Katipunan send an emissary to me? Because those who know me were aware that I would never any violent movement.
The accused is excused. Does the defense rest?
Yes, Your Honor.
Ladies and gentlemen, beyond a reasonable doubt does not mean beyond all possible doubt. It means that you must consider all of the evidence and that you are very sure that the charge is true.
The jury finds the defendant guilty and is sentenced to death.
The jury is staying in the court is adjourned.
Same day, the court decision was submitted to Governor General Camilo G. Poleviaje. Immediately, Poleviaje sought the opinion of Judge Advocate General Nicolas de la Peña, who also affirmed to that verdict.
I approve the decision of the court-martial, and I order Rizal to be shot at 7 o'clock in the morning of December 30 at Bagong Bayan Field.
Signing the fatal document ordering the execution of Dr. Governor General Poleviaje won the eternal audience of the Filipino people. He and other Spanish officials who were responsible for the death of Rizal will evermore remain as obnoxious villains in the Philippine history. Okay, that sums up our discussion of chapter 24. Would someone share his feelings and opinions about this chapter?
We have fish evidences.
Raise your right hand.
There is no real evidence.
Correspond to that Ratna.
Your Honor, ladies and gentlemen of the jury.
Natatawa ako sa mga ano niyo eh.
To be my defender.
Ano ka, Rizal?
To be my
Ano mo si Raymond?
Lieutenant of Artillery. Lieutenant.
Can see it from the way you're looking at me.
I use both. I use both. Yes, by minsan.